Welcome to my Desert Perpetual raid guide. So I haven't done one of these for a while, but I absolutely love this raid. I love the concept of an all-boss raid. I think it's really fun. Don't get me wrong, non-boss encounters are fun in other raids. They're teaching you how to do, certain mechanics for the future. But this is awesome. This is the first time we've ever really had this. I think the closest to this we've had was Last Wish, just because Last Wish had so many bosses. But Last Wish still had non-boss encounters. But anyways, let's go ahead and jump right into this raid guide. So unlike past raids, this raid is not linear. This means there is not an order to the encounters that you have to do. You also don't even have to do the entire raid. So I'm actually going to talk about that real quick. You can actually just go straight to the boss. So this is obviously a raid guide, and I'm going to teach every single encounter. But for those of you that maybe just want to hop on, go straight to the boss and do your 3 characters to have your 3 chances at the exotic, you can do that. So as soon as you load in, there are 3 big hydras in the middle that you need to kill. After killing these, you will then have access to all 4 encounters. And to access these 4 encounters, you need to go to the big purple tower in the middle. So once the hydras are dead, you will see the balls spin around, and now you will have interacts with these 4 corners up at the top of the tower. The right side interact will say Axion is Axiom. This is Latros, the big wyvern boss, and in my opinion, the easiest of the 3 bosses. The left side interact says all are entangled, and this is Epoptes, I don't know if I said that right, which is the giant Hydra boss. And then the third interact, which is behind or to the left from the previous one, says interference patterns swell. And this is the hobgoblin boss, whose name is Agraios. Again, I don't know if I'm saying these correctly. And then there's the fourth interact that says dust drifts eternal, which will just spawn the main raid boss, which is Koregos. So the order that I'm going to be doing this guide in is the way I just said the bosses. We're going to start with Latros, then Epoptes, then Agraios. In my opinion, that is the order of easiest to hardest of the 3 bosses before the main boss. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean like, oh, Latros is 10 times easier than the other 2. They're not. They're all somewhat difficult. This is not an easy raid, and that's why I'm going to be doing this guide, because I really want people to enjoy this raid and have a chance to do this raid, because I really like it, and I think it's fun, and I think more people should enjoy it like I am. In the description, I will have timestamps for people that want to just skip to specific bosses, so if they haven't learned a specific boss, they can go straight to that. Now let's hop into the first encounter of this raid guide. Living Rhythm, aka Latros, the big wyvern chicken idiot. So this is actually my least favorite of the 4 raid bosses in this raid, mainly because there's 2 things I do not really like about this encounter. One of the jobs is that 3 people have to shoot something at the same time, and the timing seems a little finicky. It doesn't seem to always just work 100% of the time. Now, maybe I just suck. Who knows? Very possible. And then also there's another mechanic where someone has to interact with a Vex Cube, but unfortunately, if you get shot when interacting with said Vex Cube, you can't grab it, and I'm not a fan of that. Like if you've ever played Trials and you try to res somebody and you get shot, you can't get the res. That same exact mechanic. So anyways, let's go ahead and jump into this first encounter. So the first thing you should do when you enter this encounter is learn the layout of the room. The first thing you should notice when you enter this room is the colored ring or portal with a giant ball underneath it. This is an hourglass that needs to be filled and is the timer of the encounter. The color of the ring is extremely important because it's going to tell one of the players where their job starts and also where DPS starts once you've triggered it. The 3 colors are red, blue, and white. Red represents the bottom leftmost plate. Blue represents the middle plate where the boss is at the beginning. And white represents the plate right there in spawn. Now, the other part of the room that you're going to want to familiarize yourself with are the 3 towers that have Vex objects floating in them. Now that you've seen the layout of the room, let's go ahead and hop into the 3 jobs that this encounter has. The first job is Add Clear / Time Extenders. The second job is tower shooter slash platform creators. And the third job is platform climber. Now, before I go into the specifics of the 3 jobs, the first thing that you have to do when you start this encounter is fill the hourglass with time. And everybody can do this. When you either walk forward or shoot at the boss or whatever, the encounter starts and 6 minotaurs will spawn in middle. When you kill a minotaur, he will drop the correct color of chronon that needs to be dunked in the ring. All 6 people can do this. You should just have all 6 people do this immediately because it requires 6, so 1 person for each chronon. You dunk all 6, you'll notice that the hourglass is completely full, and a Vex diamond will spawn underneath the circle. When you shoot the Vex diamond, that basically starts the 3 jobs. Once the Vex object is shot, all 6 people will now have basically a counter in the top middle of their screen called diastole. I don't know if I said that correct. I apologize if I mispronounced it. But yeah, this is a timer. This is, for the most part, for the second team who are shooting the towers. This is how they can link up to be on the same time. Shooting the Vex object will also now start draining the hourglass, and this is why you have the ad clear team running around finding more minotaurs and grabbing more chronons and refilling the hourglass. Now let's go ahead and hop into the 3 specific jobs. The ad clear time extender job should have 2 people, and these 2 people are running around the room looking for minotaurs. When they kill the minotaurs will drop an object called a chronon. This chronon is used to extend the time during this encounter. To extend the time, you take this chronon through that colored ring at the spawn of the map. Now, the tower shooters slash platform creators requires 3 people, 1 person per tower. The way this job goes is that you are all shooting the Vex objects in the middle of these towers at the same time. And the order of this is from bottom to top, because you are starting with the bottom platforms for the climber to climb up on, and then eventually you'll make the middle platforms, and then finally the third platforms. Now, the way you do this is that they have to be shot at the same time. And as I previously explained, all 6 people should have a timer on their screen, and you use this timer to be able to shoot at the exact same time. The way I recommend doing this is when that 4th box on the timer gets filled, all 3 people should shoot immediately after, like as soon as that hits. Also, when that 4th box fills up, all 6 people will be booped up in the air unless they're already in the air. So the way that I recommend doing this is having the 3 people be stationary. It actually makes this really simple. And as soon as you get booped, you just shoot the object and boom, platforms created. After you've correctly created the first set of platforms, you're just waiting for the climber to tell you when they're ready for the next set to be created, and same with the third set. And that is your entire job. You will know if all 3 of you have shot at the same time because it'll say Latros loses control of phase space. Now for the third and final job, which requires 1 person. This is the platformer. This person has 2 things they have to do. They have to look at the color of the ring and go to that part of the map and grab the buff off of the plate. The buff spawns on the plate once the diamond underneath the hourglass has been shot and the encounter has been started, like the timer has been started. Now the platformer is waiting for Team 2 to create the first set of platforms. They will then climb the platforms. When they get to the top of the first set, there will be a Vex object that they can interact with. Now, this is very important. You will also have imps spawning up there with you. And they hurt. I highly recommend rocking arc resist, maybe 2 arc resists. Now, these imps either need to be killed, or you can go invis if you are a hunter. If you are not a hunter, I highly recommend using the rocket pulse. It absolutely shreds them. The reason why these imps need to die as well is because when you interact with this object, you cannot be taking damage. If you take any damage, the timer the interact resets, just like how in Trials, if you're trying to revive somebody and you get shot, it resets. That same exact mechanic is in this. But like I said before, if you are a hunter, it's nice. You can just go invis on Void, or you can play Prismatic and use like a stasis weapon with Stylus Executioner and just, shoot an imp, kill an imp, and you'll go invis. Once you've interacted with the object, you can now tell Team 2 to create the next set of platforms by shooting at the same time. And then you can start climbing the second set, get to the second object, and interact with it, and rinse and repeat for the third time. Once you've grabbed the third and final object at the very top, that will then begin the DPS phase. Damage, like I said before, starts at the plate where the climber started climbing. So again, if the ring is red, that means it's the bottom left plate. If it's blue, it's the middle of the room where the boss was in the beginning. And if it's white, that's at the spawn. Now, the very last thing that happens during damage phase, sometimes if you run out of time, is that a wipe counter starts happening because you've run out of time in your hourglass. So at this point, you just need to dunk another Chronon. The best thing to do here is just have one of your ad clears holding on to a Chronon for damage, just in case this ends up happening and you need to prevent the wipe. Also, when the damage phase ends, it will also reset that timer, like it'll, because the hourglass is done and you have to refill it again. So if you're towards the end of damage phase, you could just let it run out if it's at the top, like at the beginning of that timer. And that is the entire encounter. It probably sounds like a lot. It sounds complicated, but like I said before, this is probably the simplest of the 3 bosses. Now, before I jump into the next raid boss, I would like to do a full run through of how this first encounter should go. So you start the encounter, 6 Minotaurs spawn in middle. You kill all 6 Minotaurs, you grab all 6 Chronons, you run them through the ring. Now the hourglass is full. The diamond spawns underneath the hourglass. You shoot the hourglass. Now all 6 people have the timer, the countdown starting, and the hourglass is draining. 2 people start running around the room looking for Minotaurs to get more Chronons to keep the hourglass full. 3 people go to the 3 towers, 1 for each tower, and get ready to shoot the first block on the bottom at the exact same time. And 1 person, who is the platformer, goes to the correct part of the room, which is the matching color of the ring, and grabs a buff and is waiting for the first set of platforms. Now, once the platforms are created by Team 2, the platformer will climb the platforms, grab the interact at the top of it, wait for the team to make the next set of platforms, climb the second set, get the interact, then wait for the third set of platforms to be created, climb the third set, grab the third and final interact, and now all 6 people will go to the DPS part of the room, which is the color of the ring. And now you can go wild with whatever DPS you can come up with. And that is Latros, the Wyvern Chicken Idiot encounter. Now, the next boss that we are going to be looking at is Epoptes. This encounter is called Predestination. This is the giant Hydra, or Hydras, kind of. But yeah, this is definitely the next easiest boss. Like, I think the chicken is the easiest, and then this is the next easiest. But like I said before at the beginning of the video, none of these bosses are easy. This is a very difficult raid, but it's very fun, and it feels awesome when you beat them. So again, hopefully this guide can help more people enjoy the raid like I have been able to. And hopefully I can just simplify these mechanics so that you guys are just able to understand, you know, every aspect and perfect it with your team. So the first thing you want to do when you first get to this encounter is familiarize yourself with the layout of this room, where the boss happens, like where the boss damage happens, where the ads spawn, where the mechanics happen, and all of that. That's very, very important. So first things first, the boss is in the center of the room. That is where damage happens. Ads are around the outer edge, like opposite of where I'm looking at the moment. It's goblins and like 2 Minotaurs and 2 Cyclopses. And then you have a room on the left and a room on the right. Both these rooms are the same job, which requires 2 people. Now let's jump into the 3 different jobs in this room. So firstly, you have team 1, which is 2 people on ad clear. Second team also requires 2 people. We're just going to call this team rooms because these 2 basically go into 2 different rooms by themselves. And then finally, team 3 is just outside mechanics. I don't know what to call this specific team, but they're just outside dealing with a similar mechanic that the inside team is doing. But instead of going inside rooms, they're just outside with the boss. Now, before we jump into the details of what Team 2 and Team 3 do, because again, Team 1 doesn't do anything outside of ad clear, let's talk about the beginning of this encounter. So when this encounter first starts, you know, team 2, basically one person goes left, one person goes right. Basically 3 people go left, 3 people go right, because you have ad spawning on the left and ad spawning on the right. You have, it's like something like 6 or 8 goblins on the left and the same thing on the right. They're pretty sure they're just mirrored, and 1 minotaur each. And then when those are dead, you have a cyclops that spawns on either side. When you kill the cyclops, both of them, there is a plate on the left and a plate on the right that now will receive a buff. And when both people from team 2 stand on their respective plate, they now get this buff. Now, to what team 2 is doing specifically. Like I said, there is a room on the left and a room on the right, and I'll be showing you guys those right now. So one person will be going in the left room, and one person will be going in the right room with their buffs. And there is a Hydra in each of these rooms with a big shield in front of them, and this shield basically has like a flashlight in front of them. And if you look at the shield, you will see 6 eyes. Now, when you stand in the light in the left room, up on the top left, you'll see basically all 6 eyes, like a diagram of all 6 eyes, and one of them will light up. In the right room, you will see the same diagram, but it's on the floor instead of on the wall. And again, same thing, when you stand in the light, one of them will light up. You are now relaying the one you see to the other person, and they are going to shoot that eye that you call out on the shield. Now, the way my team does this is we just number the eyes 1 through 6, left to right. So, you know, top left is 1, then top middle is 2, top right is 3, and then down like a book, 4, 5, 6. So 4 would be bottom left, 5 is bottom middle, 6 is bottom right. Now, you do not have to do it that way. Do it the best way that your team finds easiest. That's the most important thing. But again, you are calling out the eye for your teammate on the other side. You are not shooting the one you see, you are shooting the one they see. Now, you have to be standing in the light to see the eye, and you have to be standing in the light to shoot the eye. When standing in the light, you also freeze the timer on your buff, because if the timer runs out, you will die. So you want to make sure you're always standing in the light. Now, the left room is very safe outside of some harpies that spawn, but you can't fall off the map. The right room actually has holes in the floor, so it's a little bit harder. You can definitely fall off the map. Also has some harpies. And yeah. Now, I don't know exactly how fast you can do this. The most eyes we've ever been able to shoot while doing this is about, I think it's 4, maybe 5 once. But realistically, you can definitely do 3 with ease. There's plenty of time to do 3. So basically, once you both have called out your 3 and you've shot your 3 or 4, your eyes will close and lock. And at this point, this is where Team 3's job starts happening. So now we're going to move away from Team 3 or Team 2 and move over to Team 3. So Team 3, like I said, is on the outside with the boss. Same thing. They have a light on the boss's shield. They need to also get the buff by staying on the plate after they kill the Cyclopses, and then stand in the shield light, just like the other team, and look at the pillar. So what they are doing is they are shooting the 2 that the other person doesn't call out. So for example, there's 2 of them in the middle, right? They're looking at their pillar. They'll see 2 lit up, 1 not lit up. And you have to actually shoot across, right? So you're not shooting your pillar, you're actually shooting the other pillar staying in the light, and vice versa. And while that is happening, the 2 people inside are shooting the one that was called out on their same side. Now, I know that probably sounds really confusing, but let me simplify this. So let's say, you have Team 2 on the left and their Team 3 guy on the left. Right, so you have basically 2 people on the left, 1 inside, 1 outside, and then 2 people on the right, 1 inside, 1 outside. When they're done shooting their 4 or 3 eyes, the third team now stands in the light and looks at the pillar, and they call 1 out. That 1 needs to be shot in the inside by both teams, and it's not opposite, it's same. So left shoots left, they shoot the 1, and it's above the Hydra. So there's a perfect triangle above the Hydra. So if they call top, you shoot top. They call left, you shoot left. They call right, you shoot right. And like I said, left is left, right is right. But Team 3 has to shoot across. So team 3 left is standing in the light on the left, looking towards the right pillar. It's one pillar, but it's like at an angle where you can see both sides of it. They have to shoot the 2 that were not called out. And then the right side has to shoot the other side while standing in the light, the 2 that were not called out. If this is done correctly, everybody will lose their buffs. Inside team has to come outside, get a new buff, and then they go right back inside, finish shooting their 2 or 3 remaining eyes, right? Once all 6 of their eyes are shot, you will then shoot the big circle in the middle of the shield, and it'll remove the shield and kill the Hydra. So again, if correct, the Hydras will be gone in left and right, and then everybody goes to middle. The 2 remaining people with the buff then go to middle. Everybody goes middle, but they go to the shield that's lighting up at the boss, and they break the circle in the shield that will completely break the shield. Now, damage phase is basically about to start. What's going to happen is the boss is going to respawn his shield, and it's going to summon 2 people. It's going to literally say, name 2 people in your fire team, and it's random. And it'll pop up, and those 2 people have to stand in the light on each side of the boss, and it's random. You can only see one light, and the other person can see the other light. So one of you might not have to move, and it'll be right there, and the other person has to go across. When you both are standing in the light, now the boss is actually damageable, and everybody can damage him. But that's not it. These 2 people, after a certain amount of time passes, the eyes on the shield will all pop up, all 6 of them. You need to break all 6 of your eyes and then shoot the middle thing, which will completely break the shield. If both people do this correctly, then it's a full damage of, like, I don't know, 10 seconds, maybe more. I'm not 100% sure, of no shields, nothing. Everybody can just do damage. And then again, after the timer runs out, I'm not 100% sure how long it is. Like I said, it's like 10, 15 seconds. It'll now name 2 new people, and they rinse and repeat. Same thing. Get in their light. As soon as they're both in the light, the other 4 people can shoot the boss. And then after a certain amount of time passes, you shoot all the eyes. After all the eyes are broken, you shoot the centermost big circle. That breaks the shield. When both shields are broken, everybody has, again, 10 to 15 seconds of pure damage. And then finally, it'll do it one last time where it names the last 2 people, and it has to be all 6 people. It won't randomly name the same person twice. So after you've gone through all 6 people, again, you'll have one final 10, 15 seconds of damage, and then boom, that is one damage phase. And that's it. This encounter is fairly simple. There's just a lot going on, and it has to be done pretty quickly. If you go too slow, you will be wiped, and you'll have to start over. But yeah, that's the encounter. And like I said, it's pretty simple. Once you get into the rhythm of it, it's awesome. I love this encounter. I think this encounter is awesome. It just takes a lot of communication. It might be a little bit tricky with doing it with like LFG and stuff like that, just because you might not know each other's voices. So I guess that's the tricky part. But yeah, that's Epoptes. Now for the third and final encounter, Inverse Function, which is Agraios. Again, not sure if I'm saying that right, but yeah. So in my opinion, this is the hardest of the 3 bosses before the main boss. And just because there's a lot going on, there's not a lot of time to do the things that you have to do, and one small mistake and you get to start all over again. But yeah, so anyways, like the previous 2, let's go ahead and just look at the environment. Right off the bat, you can see the 5 rings in the middle. You want to memorize that. Also the 3 plates surrounding the boss. Then you also have platforms where the bosses can spawn. So there's 3 bosses. I don't know if Agraios is just 3 different dudes or what, but yeah, there's 3 of them. And there's a bunch of platforms on the left and a bunch of platforms on the right that he stands up on and snipes. So the left has 3 platforms that he can stand on, and the right has 2. The left also has 3 portals where ads can spawn from, and the right has 2 portals where ads can spawn from. You also have specialty ads, like you have wyverns in this encounter. You'll always have 2 that spawn on the left, 1 on the right. And then you have a Hydra that spawns in the middle constantly that has to do with spawning Minotaurs. And when you kill those Minotaurs, they drop Chronons. So back to the 5 rings, portals, whatever you want to call them, in the middle. You want to number these. The way that we number them is the one on the left is 1 and then just a clock. So the one on the right would be 5. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 clockwise. That's the way I've been numbering them. I think it just makes it simple for most people. This is important, and we'll come back to why that is important later. Also, the 3 pads in the middle are important because that's how you get the 3 buffs that are involved in this encounter. The top one right behind the boss is the absolute buff. The right one is the constant buff, and the left one is the cyclical buff. And these are important because you have to use them to match the boss. Now, before I talk about the different jobs in this encounter, let's go ahead and just talk about the beginning of this encounter. So as soon as you start it, ads will spawn on the left and the right and straight ahead. Kill the ads, I think when they're all dead or just after a certain amount of time passes, a Hydra will spawn directly straight ahead behind the boss in that big area. I don't know what you want to call it, with like the fallen canopy thing that's just sitting there on the ground. But yeah, so that's where the Hydras always spawn. And the Hydras are important. When you kill a Hydra, it spawns Minotaurs. It spawns specifically 5 Minotaurs, which makes sense because there's 5 rings in the middle. When you kill these Minotaurs, they drop Chronons. You use the Chronons to turn on the 5 rings in the middle. And like the very first encounter, the chicken encounter, the wyvern encounter, everybody can do this. So, you kill your ads, go to the middle, kill the Hydra, everybody spread out, kill a Minotaur, grab a Chronon. You only need 5, not 6, so not everybody needs one, and then just walk through one of those rings. Once all 5 of them are turned on, you then spawn wyverns. And like I said before, there are 2 on the left and 1 on the right. Their spawns are the same, like they can only spawn in specific places, but there are 3 spawn locations they can spawn on the left and 2 spawn locations on the right, but you can only get 3 wyverns. So obviously you're not always going to see the chicken in the exact same spot. It's possible because, like I said, there's 5 total spawns, but only 3 chickens. But it's always 2 on the left, 1 on the right. And then again, when all the Minotaurs are dead, it will also respawn the Hydra because you constantly need Chronons, so you constantly need more Minotaurs. So once you need to get more Chronons and more Minotaurs, you just need to go back to killing the Hydra. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into the different jobs in this encounter. So this one is different from the previous 2. There's only 2. There's technically like no dedicated ad clears at all. So there's 2 different jobs. There's buffs, which is 1 team, which is the 3 plates in the middle where the boss was originally spawned. And then there's the other team who are basically dedicated Chronon dunkers after the initial rings are turned on. Everybody is also just kind of on ad clear. The ads don't ever stop spawning. You constantly have Hydras. Those need to die for more Chronons and so on and so forth. But one of the hardest parts about this encounter is that it's timed. Like, it doesn't have like a dedicated timer on the screen. You can't see how much time you have, but you have to go quickly. If you go too slowly, if you take your time, you will be wiped. You have to go relatively quickly. So you want to ad clear fast. You want to kill the Minotaurs and dunk the Chronons initially fast. You want to get the buff fast. You want to align the boss, and I'll get to that in a second. And all of this very quickly. So it's all about just speed and communication and efficiency. So there's 2 specific jobs. One of them is buffs, we'll say, and the other one is Chronons. Even though I said in the very beginning, everybody can dunk Chronons, only the initial 5. After that, once buffs have been given out, those 3 can no longer pick up Chronons. I mean, they can pick them up, but they can't. If they dunk them, they'll die. So, anyways, the Chronon team, basically what they are doing is after you've initially turned on the 5 rings, the Chronon team is pretty much dedicated ad clear until until the buff team has gotten their buffs and figured out what the real boss is, or forced the real boss in a sense. So at that point, they're just ad clear, they're killing the wyverns, killing the Hydras to make sure there's more Minotaurs for more Chronons and so on and so forth. It's always good to hold a Chronon. So like after the initial 5 are dunked, it's good to immediately make sure you kill another Hydra and then go kill another Minotaur and hold on to a Chronon. It's really good for those 3 people just to have an extra one, because they're going to need 4 for the next mechanic that they do. And so this is going to be a little bit different than the previous 2 encounters. Because these are happening simultaneously, I'm going to describe both jobs simultaneously, just because it'll be more confusing if I just describe one, because you need the information from the other one. So again, Chronon team is just making sure that they have respawned Minotaurs, gotten an extra Chronon, like holding it. And so hopefully all 3 people just have a Chronon and they're waiting for the buff team. So while this is happening, the 3 people that are on buffs should have a dedicated plate because each one's different. Like I said, the top one says absolute, the left one says cyclical, and the right one says constant. So now this team of buffs stands on their plates. They get their buffs. At this point, you want to look around the room and look at the names of the bosses. One of them will be named for each buff. So you want to find yours. And this is the fun part. So you can either wait it out and wait till the game chooses the correct boss. And when this happens, he will basically become, I forget what it's called, but that laser that was in like one of the Warmind seasons where the tower targets you and you have to get line of sight. You have to break line of sight. If you don't, it kills you. It's that exact same mechanic. And I think in this, you have 9 seconds. So at this point, like I said, you can either force one person to be aligned or you can wait. So if you wait, it'll randomly just choose one of the bosses. He'll start sniping everybody and targeting everybody. And then the person that has their buff has to go underneath the boss and interact with the tower that they are standing on. And then it'll just say align and they'll align. And now you are aligned. The other way to do this is after you get your buffs, you look at the 3 names and you can dedicate one person to being the aligned person. And they can just look around the room and be like, okay, I can see my guy right there. I'm just going to go immediately align. And that's the way I like to do it. I don't like randomness in an encounter, so I like to, make it consistent. So once one person does the align, the other 2 people look at the 5 rings in the center of the room, and they have to find the 4 total rings that are different than the others. So for example, like all 5 of them need to be charged. You will, like the 2 people with the buffs, each person will see 2 that are not charged. There's also another way to do this. If you do wait on the align, the person who waits on the align before they align and they look at the buffs, they will actually see all 4 that are uncharged. So that's the other way you can do it. Like I said, I just don't like doing it that way because you are wasting more time. Like you're letting more time pass. And if you're not quick enough, you fail. So like I said, I like to do it the other way where we force the align. So yeah, so the other 2 people with the buffs that didn't align will look towards the rings and they'll see them, 2 of them uncharged. And at this point, you want to call out the 2 that are uncharged. So there should be a total of 4. So one person calls 2 and the other person calls 2. So for example, I have one of the buffs and I look towards the rings and I'm like, okay, 1 and 3 are not charged. And when they're not charged, they just have like a regular blue, like what they look like right now in the video. When they're charged, it's very obvious. They're red and they're just ready to go. And it's very obvious. It's hard to explain, but it's very obvious. So now we switch to the other team, the Chronon's team. So like I said before, at this point, hopefully all 3 people have a Chronon. But if not, again, just kill a Minotaur, grab one. Or if there are no Minotaurs, you have to kill a Hydra and grab, and then go kill the Minotaurs and grab them, because that's how you spawn the Minotaurs. But yeah, so you get the Chronons, you listen to your teammates' callouts, and you go turn on the 4 missing ones. And again, this sounds simple, and it is simple. It's a simple mechanic, but because there's so many ads, things hurt. The 3 bosses can snipe you. They can also target one person and really mess them up. Like I said, there's just a lot going on. So once all 4 are turned on, so you have someone's aligned, right? So out of the 3 people that are buffed, one of them's aligned. And then all 5 of the rings in the middle are all charged and ready to go. The person who is aligned can now run through the 5 rings in the middle. Once running through all 5 of them, your grenade will be removed and replaced with basically kind of like a relic type deal where you can use it and you can put down a Vex detainment shield around your teammates and protect them. So you want all your teammates to get together in the middle of that little structure that has like a hole in it. And when your person who's running around through the rings only has like 1 or 2 more rings to run through, they're going to tell the other 5 people to get in view of the sniper attack. So they start getting that countdown. And when that countdown reaches 3 or 2 seconds, that's when you tell the person with the grenade buff to hit the grenade button and block the sniper attack. If done correctly, like I said, you will block the attack, you will protect your teammates, And after about 10, 15 seconds, maybe more, it seems like it takes forever, one of the boss, like the boss that you were blocking, will jump down from his tower and land where he was in the initial spawn. And that is what causes damage phase. But this is not it. So during damage phase, after again about maybe 8 to 10 seconds, all 5 of the rings will turn on again. And anybody at this point, it doesn't matter, anybody can run through the rings. So for example, doing this encounter, you should probably have someone on tractor cannon. It makes it a lot easier. That person, since they're not doing damage and just weakening, when the rings turn on, they should run through all 5 rings. And by the time they get back, most likely the boss will have teleported back up to one of the towers. He will start doing his snipe attack again, where he's aiming at you and you have to get line of sight. So again, you will want to be in line of sight and you want to start counting down for your person that now has the new buff, the grenade thing, the Vex detainment shield. And again, at 3 or 2 seconds, hit the grenade button, block the shot. The boss will come back down again and damage. You get a total of 3 of these. So you get 2 extends, right? You have the initial, he jumps down, then you get 1 extend, he jumps down again, and then you get another extend. So you have technically a total of 3 phases where you're damaging the boss. And that's it. And like I said, this is arguably the simplest of the 3 encounters in terms of how much you're doing. It's just, in my opinion, by far the hardest. And because it's a tight window, there's a lot going on. If you make a mistake, if one person with one of the buffs dies before you've called out the 4 things that need to be charged, it's a wipe. If the aligned person dies, it's a wipe, because the aligned person is the only person that can run through the 5 rings initially. So like, there's just a lot going on and it can be chaotic. And so I think this is the hardest in that regard, because if you make one small mistake, you have to start over. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. I don't think I missed anything. I think that's it for Agraios. This is my favorite encounter. I love this encounter. I think this is a super fun encounter. But yeah, it's not simple. It's not easy. But yeah, hopefully that helped. We are finally to the main boss of the raid. If you have watched up until now, you are awesome. You are a legend. Thank you so much. Hopefully you guys are enjoying this. I think I'm losing my voice from making this raid guide. So I really hope you guys appreciate this. And I really hope that a lot of people were able to use this and complete the raid. But anyways, moving on to Koregos. Ironically, this is the easiest encounter, and I'm not kidding. The mechanics are super simple. There's not a lot of adds or danger during this encounter. The hardest part about Koregos is just the final stand. The final stand is like a good chunk of damage. You really need supers during it. Like 2 T crashes and you're good. But outside that, this is honestly the easiest encounter. But I also think it's the coolest mechanics. I love the mechanics in this encounter. Basically, it's like a Simon Says, I guess, maybe. It's like, basically, you have 3 people that can see different things, and they have to communicate really well to describe the things that they're looking for. So to start, let's go ahead and take a look at the environment, learn the layout of the room. First thing that you want to notice is that there are 3 plates, 3 buffs, just like the previous encounter. And the buffs are exactly the same: absolute, cyclical, and constant. And all 3 of them do a different thing. So again, in this encounter, you basically have 3 jobs, sort of. And I'll get to that. And then you'll have Koregos just floating around in the background, every now and then doing a laser beam attack, and he needs to be stunned. And then directly in the middle of the room, you will have the ring with the hourglass underneath it that needs to be filled. And that is the primary mechanic of this encounter. So first things first, you need to know which buff is where in the room. So we'll start with the left. The left is constant. The center is absolute, and the right is cyclical. Now, for what they do. So the constant buff allows you to do 2 things. It allows you to stun the boss. So every now and then, the boss will start doing a laser beam attack, and then it'll target one person, and then he'll do this huge arc attack, and if it hits you, it's almost instant death. But you can stun him out of that. And basically, he has 4 eyes or something that lights up on his face that you can shoot, and you shoot all 4 of them, he stops doing that attack. This also gives the team another buff on 4 different plates, and I'll get to that in a second. The absolute buff, which is in the middle, allows you to see the color of the hourglass in the middle and shoot mines. Yes, there are mines in this room. And then the third and final buff, cyclical, allows you to see the correct mines and pick up the chronons and dunk them in the ring. So all three jobs have multiple functions because you have some people doing one of the functions of the buff and then the other people doing the other functions of the buff. And then the absolute person is just one person and they do both. So right off the bat, you want to designate 3 people on the leftmost buff, which is constant, 1 person on the absolute buff, and 2 people on the right buff. Now you interact with the cube in the middle to start the encounter. As soon as the encounter starts, you'll have a bunch of minotaurs that spawn on the right side and the left side, and you'll have a hydra that spawns on all 3 plates. When all 3 hydras are dead, you can stand on the plates and receive your buffs. All 3 plates have to be stood on at the same time to receive the buffs. Now, after that, you're waiting for the constant team to stun the boss's attack. Once the boss's attack is stunned, he is going to now put a new buff on 4 different pillars around the room. And at this point, you want 1 person from constant, the absolute person, and 1 person from cyclical to stand on that buff. Now you can either all go to the same one or different ones. It doesn't really matter. That this buff constantly keeps getting put back on the map every time the boss is stunned, which should be happening consistently. So it doesn't really matter if you get 3 different ones, but it's easier if you just get like 1 or 2 different ones instead of 3. Now, once you've gotten this new buff, which is called Temporal Oculus, which only lasts 19 seconds, the 3 of you now have to work together to basically find the right chronons. So right off the bat, the absolute player looks at the center of the room and looks at the ring and tells the color of the ring. Now, the person with the constant buff, with also Temporal Oculus, needs to look around the room at all the different mines and find the ones that are of that same color. There'll be 3 of them. 2 of them are correct, 1 of them is wrong. And now the third person, who is cyclical with the Temporal Oculus buff, looks at the mines that the constant person calls out and either says yes or no if it is the real one or the fake one. So there's only 1 fake one, so as soon as you find the fake one, you know the other 2 are automatically correct. So at this point, and the way that you know is because the person with the cyclical buff, when they look at the mines, they just either shine white or they have nothing. They don't have anything to them. The nothing ones are the fake ones, the shiny ones are the right ones. So as soon as you've called out like one of the correct ones, that's when the absolute person shoots that one, and then one of the 2 cyclical people can pick that one up. And yes, it requires both people. You don't have to do it this way. You can do it 1 at a time, but doing 2 at a time is so much faster, and it's really easy because, again, this room is not difficult. So what you want to do is basically have like the other person, the other cyclical person who's not getting the Oculus buff, grab that mine and hold on to it. And then you find the other one that's correct, the other chronon that's correct, for the person that has the Oculus buff, and then now they grab it. Now you want both people to jump through the ring around the same time. You have a couple seconds leeway. It doesn't have to be exactly the same time. So I think it's within like 3 or 4 seconds. So you have a good leeway. But yeah, so you want to make sure you jump through at the same time. And now all you have to do is repeat this 2 other times, and you're done. Once the hourglass is full, the Vex Diamond will spawn underneath it. You shoot the Vex Diamond and it breaks, and then it starts, or it gets ready to start going up top to do damage to the boss. So you'll have platforms that spawn all around the boss. You climb to the top. When you get to the top, you still need those 3 people that were doing the other stuff to do something else. So basically, you're going to walk around this top of the thing, the top of the boss, and there are 4 locations that have little Vex objects around them. The person with the constant buff sees 2, the person with the cyclical buff sees 2, and the person with the absolute sees all 3 because they make a triangle, right? So you have to find the absolute person has to interact with the one that the other 2 both have. So to simplify this, to make this super simple, basically what we do is we have the constant person go stand in between their 2 objects that they see. So then the cyclical person will see the obvious one that they both share, because the other one will be on the other side, not in between them. And then you just have the absolute person interact. You do this 4 times, now damage starts. Now, there is another mechanic during damage. It's actually to extend damage, and this is very important. You can designate anybody to this job. It does not matter. There's no buffs required, anything like that. The way we like to do is have our tractor cannon person be on this job, because again, they're not really damaging. They're mostly just tractoring, maybe throwing some nades and shooting some fusion rifle shots. So the way that this damage extend works is after a certain amount of time after damage starts, you'll actually hear a sound effect, but if you don't hear it, you just need to find it. It will spawn one of those colored rings, and it'll spawn, I think it's all 3 Chronon colors around the arena, like up top there with you guys. And they have to find the correct one and dunk it, and that extends times. They can do this a total of 3 times, so you can extend damage 3 times. And if you miss one, damage just stops, and you go back to the bottom. Again, it doesn't wipe you or anything, you just lose out on a lot of damage. And that's it. That's the entire boss. There is a final stand. I don't think I need to explain that. It's just, you know, you get to the threshold, and then you only have like 15 seconds to do a certain amount of damage, or else you wipe. If you successfully kill the boss, another thing pops up, like a kill, like an insta wipe timer spawns, and everybody just has to get far enough away from the boss, and it won't kill you. And that's it. That's the raid. That's Desert Perpetual. I don't think I missed anything. I think that's everything in this encounter. Like I said, this is by far the easiest encounter outside of maybe a DPS check during final stand. But other than that, this is, in my opinion, the simplest encounter. And it's cool because I said at the very beginning, you can just go straight to this encounter and do it 3 times on each of your characters for your exotic chance. And then you can also just farm specific bosses for specific weapons. And yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it for this video. It's almost a 50-minute long video. This is the longest video I've ever made, I'm pretty sure. Hopefully it was extremely helpful. If you guys have any pointers for future reference, please let me know. If you have any questions, I will do my best to answer questions in the comments below. But yeah, again, if you made it to the end, you are awesome. You are a legend. I really appreciate the support. I'm actually really enjoying this expansion. Of course, I have complaints with certain things, especially like the way the contest went. That was rough. But outside of that, I'm having fun. I'm really excited to get into some build crafting in the future with all the new changes to armor. We'll really be able to dive really hard into that kind of stuff in the future. But anyways, that's it for the video. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you later. Peace.